horror, I dropped out of college. I went back a few years later. I did get my degree from the University of Phoenix, and it was a great program. But I always wished that I had finished my degree here. I wish that I had gotten that degree from the University of Utah. So, if you don't remember anything else today, remember this. I mean, get your degree from the U. It's a very prestigious school, and you will be happy for many, many years that you have a degree from the U. So as Scott pointed out, I've been in the business going on my 30th year. Okay, I started when I was 24 years old. I had hair. It was really cool. I looked like I was 16 though, seriously. But I was an agent or an advisor for about 4 years, and then I went into management and spent most of my career in management positions, at one time managing the largest financial planning firm in the state of Utah. We had 150 financial advisors in 5 different states. But left management a couple of years ago and decided that I had enough of that, and looked for an opportunity that would get me down to St. George. And as luck would have it, I knew some buddies of mine that were cyclists that are the senior executives for Mountain America Credit Union, and they invited me to come in and join them. And so we're loving it down in St. George. It gets a little warm in the summer, but right now it's really, really nice. Okay. But so I'm going to talk to you about some things having to do with some financial planning. But I'm going to speak specifically about one component. When we do financial planning, there's 3 components involved. The first component is the protection component. We kind of call that the moat around the castle. Even back in the medieval days, they were smart enough to realize that you don't build a moat, or you don't build a castle without building a moat first. So we'll go over the protection component in detail. The other 2 areas that I'm not going to cover today, but I'll just kind of tell you what they are. The next is a savings component. You know, we as Americans, we're terrible savers. I mean, most savings plans are really just deferred spending plans. Okay, and so savings is important. It's important for because of emergencies. It's also important because of opportunities. You know, 2008 we saw the stock market crash by about 40%. There were a lot of stocks on sale, and it's interesting if Nordstrom's had a sale where it was 40% off. How big would that line be to get into Nordstrom's and take advantage of that sale? It would be huge. But yet when the stock market is on sale, a lot of us run. We panic and we try to get out and go somewhere else. But if you had cash, if you had that savings, you had money for opportunities, and there were some incredible buys back in 2008 that you could have taken advantage of. And I don't know when the next crash is. My crystal ball is a little bit foggy. But I know it's going to happen soon. It may not be a crash like 2008, but we're going to see a correction. And if you have cash, then you can take advantage of some of those buys. The last area is that sexy, romantic part of financial planning that everybody wants to talk about, and that's investing, okay, or growth. And the majority of what I do now is working in that area. But you have no business investing money or working in that growth component if you haven't first taken care of the protection component, the savings component. Once those are taken care of, and you've got all the boxes filled there, so to speak, or all the boxes checked, then you can go into the growth component. So again, we're going to talk about the protection component, and like I said, it's probably the most important component, really, if you think about it. Wealth is not lost because of a market loss. Okay, market losses are temporary. I meet with a lot of people. Most of my clients are 65 and older. Any idea why I like to meet with people that are 65 and older? What was that? They're about to go into retirement. Why would I rather work with somebody that's 65 and older than, say, somebody in their 20s? What's that? Not necessarily listen to me, but you guys are missing it. They got money. Okay, you guys have no money. I could talk to you all day long. But you're a poor person. If I talk to you all day long, I'm a poor person. Okay? People that are 65 and older, they got some money. Okay? And I can help those people. So, but those people that are 65 and older, they understand the importance of protection, probably more so than we do when we're younger. But if you think about it, you can lose a lot of your wealth by not having these areas properly covered. Again, I said a market loss is temporary. If you don't panic, even back in 2008, you might have lost 30, 40% of your money on paper, but if you didn't panic and pull your money out, that market came right back up. Okay, and in fact, we're enjoying one of the best bull markets in the history of the market. But with a protection not being covered, you get in a car accident and you don't have car insurance, you can't recover that money. You have a home and you have a fire at your home, you lose your home and you don't have homeowners insurance, you can't recover that money. Okay, so we'll talk about some of these specifically, and I will promise you this: the next 40 minutes or so, it'll be the fastest 40 minutes of your life, or it'll be the longest 40 minutes of your life, depending on your participation. If you just sit back and listen, it's going to go really long. But if you participate, I promise it'll go really fast. And I might be able to share with you some things that'll save you money too. Okay? All right, so let's get started. First area is car insurance. Okay? Everybody, who has a car, by the way? Raise your hand if you have a car. So just about everybody has a car. Now raise your hand again if you're responsible for buying the car or paying for the car. Okay, not as many hands, okay, but still. Okay, how many of you that have cars have car insurance? Okay, I hope the numbers are about the same. In fact, there's a law that says you have to have car insurance. Okay, how many of you would not have car insurance if it wasn't the law? Some of you would not have car insurance if you weren't forced to have it, if it wasn't the law. Are you talking about liability insurance? I'm talking about car insurance. I'm talking about the... Okay, so with your own old car you wouldn't, but with the nicer one you would. Okay, I'm going to show you why that would be a mistake. All right, so those of you that have car insurance, how many of you are paying for your own car insurance? Okay, good number of you, good. Okay, throw out some of the deductibles that you have. What's your deductible on your car insurance? Do you know what that is? Who is that? 500? Okay, good. What else? 1,000? Anything else? Anybody have 250? How many of you don't know? Is that because you're not paying for it? Okay, you are paying for it, but you don't know. Okay. Okay. I'm glad you're here. Not only to get free soup over here, but this is going to help you, okay? All right, so you have a $500 deductible. Tell me your name. Elvis? Okay. Why did you choose 500? It's what you could afford. Okay. Okay, so let's say that you're involved in an accident, okay? You hit a tank. There's no damage to the tank, but there's some damage to your car, and it's about $500 worth of damage. Are you going to file a claim? Well, yes or no? $500 damage, you're going to file a claim. Okay, so somebody else has $500 deductible. Who else has a $500 deductible? Anyone? Okay, would you file a claim? I probably wouldn't. What about 600? 700? 800? 900? 1,000? Most people don't file a claim because why? Yeah, the premium will go up. Okay, I'm not going to file a claim. So in most classes that I do this with, the majority of people say $1,000, yeah, I'd file a claim. And what did that person just tell me what their deductible should be? Illness or an accident, and the owner not having the ability to pay the mortgage than for any other reason. Okay, so the next area is disability insurance. or what I call paycheck insurance. Disability insurance is there so that in the event of an accident or an illness and you can't perform the substantial duties of your job, then they will pay you just as if you were making that money yourself. And that money will come to you tax-free. Couple of things that brought this to my attention. One, when I was first started in the business and I was single, okay, I love mountain biking, still do. Was out with my buddies, we were mountain biking, and the trail was really narrow. Okay, on one side of the trail was the mountain, on the other side was this drop off. And we're going along as fast as we can, and I look over to the side, and I got this really cold feeling. I thought, oh my heck, I'm going to fall off this trail, and I'm going to break my neck and die. And then I got even a colder feeling, and I said, no, I'm going to fall off the side of this mountain. I'm going to break my neck and live, okay, and be paralyzed from the neck down. Okay, I immediately stopped my bike, walked it down the trail, actually went to my car. Back then I carried applications in my trunk. I hurried up and wrote myself up a disability income policy. And I thought, okay, if I'm going to be disabled and paralyzed from the neck down, then I want to have some money coming in so I can hire myself a really good-looking nurse to take care of me for the rest of my life. Okay. Now, fortunately, that didn't happen. Okay, but it could have. And we know people all the time that they become disabled because, again, of an illness or an accident, and they can't work. I'll give you another example. When I first started the business, one of my first clients was a brand new chiropractor. Guy just opened up his practice. And I met with him, and we started discussing some things, and he wanted to buy a disability policy that would provide him $2,500 a month in the event that he became disabled. And it had a 90-day elimination period. So nothing would be paid for the first 90 days, but after that he'd get $2,500 a month tax-free for as long as he was disabled. Okay, a couple years later, he called me. His business was doing a lot better, and he said, Brian, I need some more disability insurance. So we sold him another $2,500 of disability coverage. Okay, everything was going along, and then several years later I got a call from him. And he said, hey, Brian, you know that disability insurance you sold me? Yep. He said, about 4 months ago, I was up snowboarding. Okay, now for those of you that are snowboarders, what's the most common accident you have on? Yeah, your wrist. You break your wrist. Okay, and that's what happened. He broke his wrist. He said, I broke my wrist. It's been 4 months. It's still not healed properly. Can I make a claim on my disability? I said, absolutely. So we filed the claim, and they started paying him $5,000 a month tax-free. Now, I got to be honest with you. My kids are now 28, 25, and 24, and thank goodness I'm still around, because still the idea of her sister raising my kids, that still gives me nightmares. Okay, so a will and a trust is very important. Now, I also have some, a trust can allow you to have instructions where you can actually control your money from the grave, if you will. So I'm a big believer in life insurance. I have life insurance on myself. My wife has life insurance on her. And we've been lucky in life. We've gathered some assets, and we have a fair amount of money. And again, if something was to happen to my wife, I get everything. If something happens to me, she gets everything. But if something were to happen to both of us, there would be several $1 million that would go to our kids. 28, 25, 24. Now, I love my kids. They're good kids. But I've also seen, in my 30 years of doing this, I've seen what happens to people when they just receive money. There's an old saying that says, money not earned is easily spent. And I've seen people that have inherited money, or people that have won the lottery, and within 3 years they've spent it all. And they have no idea where it is. So 28, 25, 24, they receive millions of dollars, and in my mind, it's going to be gone. Okay, as responsible as they are. Now, I know what some of you guys are thinking. You're thinking, not me. That wouldn't happen to me. Okay, it happens all the time to some of the most responsible people that I've met. Within 3 years, the money's gone, and they really can't tell you where it goes. So in my mind, I would protect my kids from themselves. In my trust, if something happens to me and my wife, they will receive some of the money now. okay? But then in 5 years, if they're gainfully employed and they're good citizens, and I get to define what a good citizen means, then they're going to receive some more money. And then 5 years later, if they're gainfully employed and they're good citizens, then they'll receive some more. And it goes about 3 times. Now, some of you may say that's not fair, okay? And I don't care. It's my money. I can do with it whatever I want, okay? Maybe I'm a controlling dad and I'm controlling them from the grave. Fine. They don't have to participate. Just tell me and I'll write them right out of the trust right now, okay? But I've seen too many instances where somebody just wastes the money, okay? So a trust is, in my mind, especially if you have young kids, not only do you need a will, but you need a trust as well. You can see an attorney for about $1,000. You can get a will and a trust done. It's not that big a deal, okay? Any questions on that? Yeah. No, you don't have to have a will and trust for life insurance, okay? You can name a beneficiary in your life insurance, and even if you had a will and trust, if you named an individual as the beneficiary, it will supersede the will and trust and go to the beneficiary, okay? All right, since you brought it up, let's talk about life insurance, okay? So there's a couple of different types of life insurance. One is term insurance, and term insurance is like renting insurance. It's very cheap, okay? Especially when you're young and when you're healthy, you can get term insurance for a really low cost, okay? But let's talk about, before we get into the types of life insurance, let's talk about why you need life insurance, okay? Somebody gave me a definition as to someone who would need life insurance, and I think this is something you ought to take note of, okay? You need life insurance if one of 2 things are occurring in your life, okay? If you love someone, you need life insurance. If you owe someone, you need life insurance. And I would tell you, if you don't love someone or owe someone, you ought to reevaluate your life, okay? So everybody needs life insurance. It's adult, it's mature, it's the right thing to do, okay? How many of you are married in here? Do we have any married people? Okay. Tell me your name. Josh, are you, I should ask this before. How many of you are happily married? Okay, good. I won't put you on the spot then, Josh. Okay, good. Okay, what's your wife's name, Josh? Say it again. Jocelyn. Okay, that's easy. J&J. Okay, awesome. Okay, and you guys are happily married. Kids? Okay. Let's say Josh is driving the car this time, and it's the 42-year-old microsurgeon driving the 7 Series BMW that's not paying attention. And he runs the red light, and he plows into Josh. And Josh is now gone. He's dead. Okay? Josh, would Jocelyn sue the guy that hit you? Yeah, she'd have to. Okay, she would have to. Okay, so let's say that Jocelyn sues, and they're in court, and the judge says, okay, we're going to rule in favor of Jocelyn because we feel this other person is at fault, but we're having a hard time determining what the value of Josh's life is. Okay, so Jocelyn, I just need to ask you one question to determine Josh's life value. How much life insurance do you have on Josh? Because that'll tell us how much he's worth. Now, if that was the case, Josh, would Jocelyn be happy with the amount of money that she was going to receive? No. Okay. All right. Fortunately, they don't do that. Okay. But I want you to think about it this way too. What if, okay, we went to Jocelyn's house the day after, and I knock on the door, and I say, Jocelyn, I am so sorry about Josh. He was a good guy. I know you guys were happily married. I also know that he didn't have any life insurance. But I want you to make you aware of a new type of life insurance that has just come out. It's called after-the-fact life insurance. And so you now have 24 hours to determine how much life insurance you want on Josh. How much do you want? What do you think she'd say? As much as she can get. Exactly. Okay? Sadly, Josh, there's no such thing as after-the-fact life insurance. Okay? But if as much as I can get is the right answer after the fact, isn't as much as I can get also the right answer before the fact? Yeah. Okay. Do young people sometimes die? Yeah. It happens. Okay. I don't know why they don't make owning life insurance a law, because it would solve a lot of our economic problems if they did. Because I see a lot of people that pass away, and then I see in the newspaper, in lieu of flowers, please send donations to. Or now they're setting up a GoFundMe account. Okay? I have a problem with that. Okay? Where was the personal responsibility? Where was the demonstration of love? Honey, I love you so much that I want to make sure that no matter what, if something happens to me, you and the kids are going to be okay. Okay? So, what's the maximum amount of life insurance that you can get? Well, it depends. It depends on how much income you make. Okay? When you're young, in your 20s, you can get up to 40 times your income. So in other words, if you're making $50,000 a year, you could qualify for as much as $2 million of life insurance. Okay? Now that may seem like a lot of money, but I guess the question is how long do you plan on being dead? Okay? For some people, that's not a lot. I mean, again, we're replacing the person. Yes?
So in that situation, somebody gets paid out for life insurance. Is that money taxed?
It's not taxed. That money is tax-free. Okay? In your 30s, that number goes down to about 30 times your income. In your 40s, 20 times your income. 50s and 60s, it's 10 times your income. Okay? So you can't just go in and say, I want to buy $10 million of life insurance and I make $20,000 a year. It doesn't work that way. So you have to qualify financially, and then you also have to qualify medically. Okay? If you're not healthy, you're not going to qualify for life insurance. Okay? So while you're young, while you're healthy, term insurance is a great idea. You can get $1 million of term insurance. For most of you, look like you're in your 20s. If you're healthy, you could get $1 million of life insurance that would be guaranteed for 10 years for probably about $18 a month. If you wanted it guaranteed for 20 years, it'd probably cost you $25 a month. Okay? You spend more than that on a movie and popcorn. Okay? But think of the return. Okay? If we want to talk about return on investment, ROI. If I pay $25 and then I get hit by a bus and I'm dead, and my wife gets $1 million, isn't that a pretty good return on income? Yeah, except for you, you're dead. Okay? But still, it's cheap and it's not very, it's a good way to go, especially when you're young. The problem with term insurance as you get older, it becomes more and more expensive. And so another type of insurance is called permanent insurance. Okay, permanent insurance is going to cost you a little bit more, but it's there for your whole life. It doesn't go away like term does. Okay, insurance companies love to sell term insurance because it's cheap, but they hardly ever pay out on it. Okay, very rarely do they pay out on a term insurance because it's never there when you need it. Okay, any questions on life insurance? Okay. Are you married? Do you love someone?
I love someone, but I'm not married.
Okay. Do you owe any money?
I will after school.
Okay. Well, then, yeah, you probably need to get some life insurance. And really, you buy life insurance not because you're going to die, but especially term insurance. One of the advantages to term insurance, you insure your insurability. So right now, you're young, you're healthy, you could probably qualify for life insurance. But as you get older, things happen. Things go wrong. And so if you become unhealthy, you may not qualify for life insurance. But if I have a 20-year term policy, and let's say I qualify for the preferred rating, the best rating that I can get, and then 18 years from now, I develop cancer. Well, my term insurance is going to be up in 2 years. But if I buy the right type of term insurance, I can convert it from term to permanent and not lose it. Okay? If I find out I have cancer, how important is that life insurance? Okay? I can't tell you how many people call and say, hey, I need to get some life insurance. Okay, what's wrong? Well, I just found out that I have diabetes. Or I just found out that I have cancer. It's too late. It's too late now. Okay? Nobody will give you insurance then. Okay? So life insurance, it's adult, it's mature, it's the right thing to do. I've been doing this for 30 years, and about several years ago, I was meeting with some guys from the office. We were having lunch. We're sitting around the table, and we're having a conversation about life insurance. And we started talking about how many death claims we've paid. So a client passes away, and we deliver a check. And one of the guys in the group said, yeah, I've paid over 100 death claims. And I'm thinking, man, I'm sure glad I'm not one of your clients. I mean, his clients die, okay? But I started thinking about how many checks have I delivered? And I started working that through in my mind. And I can remember every single one of them, just as clear as day. And I remember the first one. The first one, I was a fairly new agent, and my manager called me in and he said, hey, Brian, we've got a client we got one of our clients that's passed away, and he's an orphan client, which means that the agent isn't there anymore. The agent either retired or quit or whatever. So we have this orphan client. He's passed away. Would you mind delivering the check to his widow? I said, yeah, absolutely. So I called this widow and made the appointment. And I went up there with this $50,000 check. And I was feeling pretty good about myself. And I knocked on the door, and this little widow comes to the door, and she's so glad to see me. And she invites me in, and there's some of her children are there too, and they're really happy to see me. And I deliver this check. And I said to her, I said, I didn't know your husband, but obviously he loved you because he wanted to make sure if something happened to him that you'd be taken care of. And so I want to give you this check. And again, they were so appreciative. And I just felt so good, and it left such an impact on me. But not the biggest impact. The next check that I delivered was a client of mine, somebody that I had worked with. And sadly, just 2 years after he became a client, he developed cancer and he died. And this time I had a much bigger check. Okay, it was a check for $600,000. And I remember, again, just as clear as today, going to her home and sitting across that kitchen table with her and saying, your husband loved you. I know he did, and he wanted to make sure if something happened to you that you would be taken care of. So I want to deliver this check for you, and I slid it across the table. And she just sat there for a long time, didn't say anything. And then she slid the check back towards me and said, you can have the check if I can have my husband back. Oh, man, that one hurt a little bit. But again, it left an impact, but not the biggest impact. The next one that comes to mind is a friend of mine. This is somebody that I knew, somebody that I helped. We were friends, and he needed some life insurance, and so I helped him with some life insurance. And he was out hunting. And for those of you that are hunters, there's some rules that you have to follow when you're hunting. Okay? And one of the rules is when you cross a fence. And you're supposed to hand the rifles to your buddy, and then you cross the fence, and then you hand them to him, and then he crosses the fence. Well, this guy that my buddy was with didn't follow the rules, and he tried to cross the fence, and he tripped, and his gun went off, and it hit my friend, and it killed him. And I delivered a check to his wife, and that left an impact. The next check that I delivered was just about a year ago. Another very, very close and dear friend of mine. He was an athlete. He actually played quarterback up here at the University of Utah in 1993 and 1994. Okay, super athlete. He and I did a lot of cycling together, rode in a lot of races. About a year ago, he was involved in a freak bicycle accident. He was going with a group of guys, and his foot slipped off the pedal. For those of you that are cyclists, your foot never slips off the pedal. You're clipped in. But for whatever reason, when he went to put some torque on his pedal, his foot slipped off, and he lost some balance, and then he overcorrected, and it threw him off of his bike, and it killed him. 42 years old, prime of his life. And I've known Brandon for years and years. And the crazy thing is, 6 months prior to that happening, he called me up said, hey, Wash, I need some more life insurance. And he already had some life insurance, but we put some more life insurance on him, and Brandon was covered. Brandon loved his wife. He loved her, and I delivered a very large check to his wife. She would have gladly traded that check to have Brandon back, but that's not possible. And the fact that Brandon loved her enough to make sure that even though he's not there, she's okay financially. She's okay. Okay? And that left an impact on me. But again, not the biggest. Okay, when I started the business, I told you I was 24 years old, and I looked really young. Okay, and I was failing bad. I had not made a sale in a couple of months, and I was getting desperate. So what do you do when you get desperate? You call your dad, right? So I called my dad, and I said, hey, Dad, you got to help me out. He said, what's up? I said, man, I'm struggling. You got to help me out. You got to buy a life insurance policy. He said, I do not want to buy a life insurance policy. And I said, no, you need to. And he said, well, how much is it? I said, $332.46. He said, I can't afford that. And I said, yeah, you can. I know how much you make. So I twisted his arm enough, and he bought the life insurance. Roll the clock forward to about, this was when he was 50 years old. At 64 years old, he decided he was going to retire. And we got together and we started counting the pennies, if you will. Looked at the investments that we'd put together for him, and we'd actually built up a pretty good amount of retirement assets. And he said, let's go ahead and cash in the life insurance, because this was a permanent policy that had some cash value. So let's cash that in and add it to my retirement assets. And I said, no, let's not do that, Dad. The life insurance, you've had it long enough now that it'll pay for itself. And let's spend down these other assets first, and then if we need to get to the money out of the life insurance, so we can do that. But if something were to happen to you, Mom would need that extra money. And he said, well, nothing's going to happen to me. I said, I know, but just trust me. I got you this far. Stay with me. And so he kept the life insurance. 4 months later to the day, my dad was out fishing. A storm came in, and my dad was struck by lightning and killed instantly. Okay? And I delivered that check to my mom. And that one left a big impact. Really big impact. At the funeral, my aunts and uncles, several of them came up and thanked me and said, Brian, thank you so much, because we know your mom's going to be taken care of because of what you did. And that made me feel really good. But it wasn't the biggest impact. The biggest impact happened about 2 years when I was in the business. So fairly young still. But I had a client call me. Client said, hey, Brian, I need some more life insurance. How much would another $100,000 cost? And I said, are you looking at term or permanent? He said, just some term insurance. I said, it's cheap. It's about $12 a month. He said, is that it? I said, oh, yeah, it's cheap. He said, how long would it take you to write it up? And I said, well, I'm getting pretty good at it. I could probably do it in about 10 minutes. Okay, this was in the first week of November when he called. And he said, you know what, he said, I need to get some, but let's get together after the holidays. And I said, what are you talking about? Are you talking about after Thanksgiving or after Christmas? He said, let's get together after Christmas. And I said, hang on, I can do this in 10 minutes. I can be there early in the morning. I can be there late at night. If you need the insurance, let's get you taken care of. And he said, no, I'm just too busy. Let's get together after the holidays. I said, come on, 10 minutes. I tried to twist his arm, but he said, nope, I'm just too busy. After the holidays, call me then. Thanksgiving morning, I'm looking through the paper, and I get to the obituaries. And there he was. 38 years old, was out bowling with his family, and had a stroke and died. I immediately called his wife. Said, I am so sorry. And then she asked me the question I didn't want her to ask. Brian, did he get the other life insurance? No, I'm sorry, I tried. He just told me he was too busy. Long pause. Longest pause of my life. She said, yep. That was the story of his life. He was just too busy. That one left an impact on me. That one just about made me leave the business because I had failed. I'd let her down. Made a promise right there. If somebody needs insurance and they want to put me off, they got to go talk to somebody else. I'm not going to have that responsibility. But it taught me about the importance and the value and the significance of what we do. Life insurance is just a little bit of what I do. I mean, most of my time is spent working with people and with investments and things. But I'm passionate when it comes to talking about life insurance. I've seen what can happen when you demonstrate your love for somebody and you've taken the time to prepare, and I've seen what happens when you don't. And I can promise you, you want to be on the side of preparation. Okay? Again, it's adults, mature. Hey, this has been great to talk to you guys. I can stay for a few minutes and answer any questions, but thank you very much. Yes, sorry. About what? How do I feel about getting life? Oh, okay. How do you get life insurance? Great question. Okay. The easiest way is just to contact somebody in the business. And if you say, what if I don't know anybody in the business? Talk to a friend and say, who do you use for your life insurance? Do you have somebody that you can recommend? Okay. If not, see me after, and I can give you some names of some people. Okay. There are a lot of, so one time I was the president of the Utah Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors here in Utah. So I know a lot of guys in the business, and I'm happy to give you some names. Okay, any other questions? Okay, well, if you're too shy or embarrassed to ask in front of the group, like I said, I can stay here for a few minutes. I'm happy to meet with anybody and answer any questions. Thank you.